Interesting day weather-wise around the world, at least northern hemisphere is all I've really had time to investigate. But this first picture I'm showing you here is a visible satellite image from yesterday over the Western Mediterranean, North Africa, Iberian Peninsula, France, and parts of Western Europe. And the orangey-looking material here that's over the ocean, over the Mediterranean Sea, is dust from the Sahara Desert. And it was blown straight across the Mediterranean into central parts of Western Europe, Germany, Switzerland, parts of France. And that's in association with a storm that's kind of distinguishable. It's a still image only, unfortunately, kind of distinguishable right here, just to the west of the Straits of Gibraltar. And so what happened is this storm came to a very unusually low latitude, the latitudes of Morocco, Western Sahara in North Africa. And the circulation around the storm is counterclockwise, and so it blows dust off the Sahara Desert into and across the Mediterranean and into Central Europe. Turns out in the high elevations of some of the Alps, there was snowfall in ski resorts that was orangey snow because all the dust is such fine particulate that it kind of mixes in and actually serves as the nuclei upon which some snowflakes form. So they have orangey snow in parts of Western Europe at high altitude, and the skies all over Western Europe were orangey yesterday because of this Saharan dust. Isn't that interesting? And it's common enough that in Barcelona, in Spain, they actually have a dust forecast center. Isn't this unbelievable? So here's what the picture looked like on Friday afternoon, valid into the day on Saturday, where it's browner. Of course, there's a higher concentration of Saharan dust, and there's a plume that comes straight off of Algeria. Only coastal Algeria is really lush. That's Mediterranean climate. Everywhere else in Algeria is the Western Sahara Desert. So there's a huge amount of Saharan dust being blown into southern France, and then it made its way also into southern Germany and over Switzerland and northern Italy, and here Sardinia and Corsica. And so really incredible event, but as I say, not that unusual, and probably the highest frequency of such events is in early February historically. So that's pretty neat. There's a really wild, if sort of end times look to the snow. It's orangey and pretty interesting in parts of the high altitude locations in southern France, Italy, and Germany. Now, for us, we've had the beginning of quite an interesting situation in terms of an extended cold snap. This is the surface map from this morning at 7:14 our time. We have a gigantic region of high pressure stretching all the way from the mountainous western part of Canada down across our high plains into the western Great Lakes region, and then extending all the way to the coast. Here it is in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Well offshore, we'll see in the satellite pictures, a pretty intense cyclone that gave another round of snow to many locations in the eastern United States on Saturday, Sunday, and mostly Sunday night. And so this has been incredible, and it's gotten, as you know, I don't have to tell you, it's gotten really cold around here. And in fact, we are now 2 days in the books with high temperatures 10 degrees or lower, and today will be another such day, and we stand to have another 7 after that. That would, of all things, tie the longest streak ever in Madison's history of consecutive days with a high temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, which was set from January 19th to January 28th, 1963. So it's almost a 60-year-old record that we may actually challenge as this week goes by. So if you can stand it, cross your fingers and hope for temperatures to stay below 10 degrees every day for the high temperature, and we will enter the record books in quite a dramatic fashion. But this is only day 3 of what looks like will be an extended period of unusually cold temperatures. The high temperature at this time of year is supposed to be about 24 degrees. And so we're way, way below normal. In fact, it may be higher than that. So we're way below normal locally in the temperature. So that's what the distribution of pressure across the country looks like. The whole eastern 2/3 of the country is dominated by this Arctic high that's kind of settled in the wake of the storm that affected the east on the weekend. And it's even almost no unsettled weather across the western part of the United States either. So really unusually benign weather. And here are the temperatures that go along with that. We've got temperatures in our own region just below zero this morning. It was minus 15 yesterday morning for a low in Madison. A little bit warmer this morning. I think we only got down to about minus 3 or 4. It's minus 2 by 7 a.m. But look at these temperatures just to our north. This is what awaits, as we talked about last week, advection, the horizontal movement of air by the virtue of the winds. And how will we keep minus 35 air away from us? It'll modify a little as it comes farther south, but this cold, air mass is on its way southward ever so slowly, and so it's going to continue to stay cold. But look at how widespread temperatures in the single digits are across the continental U.S. now. They go all the way from parts of northern New England, western, southern New England, most of Pennsylvania, all the way down to larger part of Missouri is below 10 degrees, and then almost all of Kansas is, and then you go up along the spine of the Rockies. That's a huge area to be that cold, and it's pretty unbelievable. Only the peninsula of Florida is, and not even Jacksonville, is saved from the really desperately cold air. But when you wake up and it's 42 degrees in Jacksonville, that's cold. 34 in Charleston is cold. 32 in Jackson is cold. Nobody expects that more than once or twice a year, and so we're in the midst of the beginning of a cold spell in the southern states that will last a long time. Let me show you the satellite movie over the continental United States and adjacent waters. The first feature that you see of interest is this massive storm that's off the coast, and that's the one that gave, I think, mostly heavy snows to New England. In the middle Atlantic, not quite as heavy, but in New England, I think in the Boston area, they got 6 to 11 inches of snow in various locations, and that's a pretty decent-looking storm. Of course, it has the counterclockwise rotation that's characteristic of all mid-latitude cyclones. This one's really nicely organized as it rams into parts of maritime Canada. So major snows in Prince Edward Island, parts of western Newfoundland, today. But look across the continental United States itself. Almost not even any cloudiness. There's certainly no organized weather systems. This little bit of clouds scooting past us to the south is likely to be light snow. We're having a little bit of snow over us even this morning. But broadly speaking, no organized weather systems over the entire broad continental United States and most of Canada as well. It's just downright cold in most locations. And that's the leading characteristic, I'd say, for the day. Let's take a look at the radar across the continental 48. And you can see that's the only game in town is this little bit of light snow just south of Chicagoland, across the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, and then on toward Akron, Ohio. A little bit of snow in New Brunswick, Canada. There's nothing actually falling out of the sky here in western Texas. That's probably just a radar test that they're doing today. And then maybe a shower or two in the high mountains to the east of the Puget Sound, and then a little bit in northern Idaho. So a pretty benign day across the country in terms of sensible weather. That is snow, rain, other kinds of things like that. And then finally, we'll look at the West Coast satellite image from today. And it portends maybe a continuation of these conditions because there's nothing well organized in the Pacific Ocean. I think my experience tells me that, and you're gaining some, so you might see some of the same things. But earlier in the term, we saw some really nicely organized storms, like the one we're seeing off the East Coast today. And there's no such thing there in the Eastern Pacific Basin at all today. Here's the state of Hawaii, right where the cursor is. It's very hard to see that map outline, but I'm finding it for you. And so all the way to almost to the date line, there's absolutely very little organized weather. And then even west of the date line, the only thing that one can see, and it's somewhat oblique, is this storm that's roaring into the southern Bering Sea past the date line. So it's actually off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. These weather systems are weak, poorly organized, and one sees dominant cloud-free skies over the high-latitude parts of western Canada and Alaska. And the sun is still only coming up for a few hours a day in some of those high-latitude places. So a continued production of cold air can be maintained tenuously for the next several days, not much longer than that. But this is about the perfect conditions to keep the air cold over the continent that you could hope for at this time of year, and we've got them. So that's going to help to prolong our cold snap. So let's keep tabs on this week. It'll be an exciting week. How many days in a row can we go with a high temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit or less? We're shooting for 10. Looks like we have 2 already in the bag, or we have 3 already in the bag. We're hoping to get 7 more.